the guy that I'm having on, New York Times bestselling author. I've known him for a little while, met him in L.A., have listened to him, watched him, gotten his books, listened to his books on audio tape, and, let's see, international speaker and sales training expert. And you'll understand why I have him on. As I said, New York Times bestselling author of 5 books since the collapse of Wall Street, which is a major thing because you think about Wall Street, people don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. I can't do anything. Well, guess what? He shows you how to do, because it's all, you'll hear about it. He's the executive producer and star of the TV reality business show The Turnaround King because he is the Turnaround King. He's a regular on Fox, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, Bloomberg, Huffington Post, and Business Insider, and host of his own radio show, The Cardone Zone. I am jazzed to have the amazing Mr. Grant Cardone with us. Grant, are you with me, man?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So nice. I'm as jazzed as you are, my friend.
Ah, you're awesome, bro. I got to tell you, we were talking before the show started about, why I had him on here. Because, look, for all intents and purposes, Grant is a business guy, right? He's a motivational business guy.
James, I'm actually an actor acting like a business guy.
Well, I love it. I'm a business guy acting like an actor. And, we talked about why I wanted him to come on. And he wrote a book called The 10X Rule. And it's 10, the number X, like 10 times. And I got it on audiobook, and I urge you guys to get it because Grant narrates it himself. And basically, it's like having Grant in your house, sitting next to you, right, talking. And as I listened to that, and I listened to my friends, in the business. Now, Grant's wife is an actress. I mean, she's a major actress. So he knows the business as well. And so often for those of you guys who are, those of you who have great careers, you get it, right? There's still more to do. Those of you who are just starting out, whether it's in music or acting or fashion or whatever it is, even if you're not an entertainer and you're an accountant or you're a car salesperson or you're a whatever it is, what is stopping you from reaching your goal and reaching your dream? So often we sit and, call it the victim mentality. It's like, well, I can't get this because they won't call me in for this audition. Or, my agent won't, I don't have an agent. I can't get an agent. I can't. So Grant's the sort of can-do guy. So I wanted to bring him on to take his expertise and his knowledge and apply it to how we as artists, and again, if you're not an artist, can change your life to have a different perspective. So that's why we have him on. So Grant, what are your first thoughts on this? And whatever you want to say. This is, my show is so relaxed, man. It's just whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm never relaxed, so this will be very interesting. So James, here's the deal. My wife's an actress, and what I see. I told her one day, she came back from an audition. She wasn't happy with it. I'm like, you know what? Your business sucks. And she's like, you don't understand. And then she started crushing me, right? She's like, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like. There's directors in there. We don't get feedback, And I'm like, hey, the only thing I don't understand? I've never been invited to an audition. You were invited. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've had probably, I don't know, a couple thousand auditions in my lifetime. I was just never invited. And the people didn't know they were auditioning me. I just basically crashed in and said, hey, pay attention to me. I have something that you need to know about. And then I started doing my deal. And that's how business and acting is very similar. I don't see them as different. You have to get attention. And the problem in the acting world is you're not in control. The actor's not in control. They want to turn it over to a manager, then to a director, and then to an agent. Look, you got to get control. If you want to have a career, you have to be in control.
No, it makes total sense. I look at people who have succeeded to that nth degree. You've got people, who did like Spike Lee, Billy Bob Thornton. You got people like, Tom Cruise. What happens was they get a certain point and then they go, who also did? Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel created his own little documentary film, which was then seen by a couple of people and Spielberg saw it and boom, they took control and they did. So they didn't wait, and that's something that I learned later in my career. So what do you think, because that is the truth, we wait so often. What happens?
Yeah, I told her this, and she's like, yeah, but TV and movies is different. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a TV show and prove to you it's not different. And actually, I was doing this while I was writing the 10X rule. And the 10X rule basically is about a business guy that's completely committed to being in business and making business work, but he's scared that it's all going to be taken away from him because of what's happening economically. And also at the time, what was happening to industries. Like if you see what's happening to movies right now, or look at what's happening to the radio or the music business, dude, you got entire industries collapsing and remorphing into something else. Yeah. And so in the 10X rule, there's this business guy, happens to be me, that's concerned about economics and about industries collapsing around him and basically taking 25 years of business success away from him. So I said, I'm going to get a TV show. And the reason I'm going to get a TV show is to prove to you I can get a TV show without knowing anybody in TV, without an agent, without a manager. I don't need any of that. And the second reason was for me to get my brand known, look, you got to have TV. You must have TV, internet, movies, radio. You got to be doing it all. And in addition to that, you probably need to be crashing in on people, just literally walking in on them, putting your face in front of their face as much as possible as well. So we dropped 1,000 videos on YouTube in a period of about 18 months. Sure enough, got a phone call out of New York. Somebody had seen some stuff I was doing and said, hey, we want to do a TV show around a guy like you. And at this point, now you got to be a businessman because I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager.
Right.
I picked up the phone and I'm like, hey, what took you guys so long to call me? Right. And they're like, what? See, you got to be a character, right? That's all anybody ever hires.
Yeah.
You got to be something. All those people you named, there's something authentic about those individuals.
Right.
And they're big. Even if they're small, even if they're victims, they're big, big victims.
Right.
And because you're trying to burst through noise. This is what the actor needs to understand, the musician. Look, there's a lot of competition out there. And I'm not just talking about another band that'll play Friday night at the same club you want to play at. I'm talking about all the other noise and distraction in the world. The school shooting, Jerry Buss died today for the Lakers coach. Right. I mean, just all over the world. Every day there's massive amounts of competition that keeps the attention of somebody that you need attention from.
Right.
And so basically when this group called me, for a moment I had their attention. Hey, we want to do a TV show around you. And now I have to really ramp up getting their attention and closing a deal. I said, hey, where are you guys located? And they're like, we're in New York. We're in New York, 62nd Street. I'm like, what do you mean 62nd Street? And they're like, well, that's where we're located. I'm like, I'm going to be there in 2 days. And the lady's like, oh my God, hold on. Glenn, she puts me on the hold, but I can hear her. Glenn, he's going to be here in 2 days. And I can hear him running across the floors, the wooden floors, and he grabs the phone. Are you serious you're going to be here? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there in 2 days, man. I'm going to be on 64th Street. So, of course, we get a meeting with him, and I get off the phone, and I tell my assistant, get me a flight to New York. I need to be there in 2 days.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we closed a TV show around that called Turnaround King, which got me a tremendous amount of attention, where I basically said, look, I could turn around any company, any individual, any product. It doesn't matter. Look, if you're an actor, that's your product.
Yeah.
So you don't think you're a salesperson, but the truth is the guy that's selling furniture, he has this thing called furniture that he sells. You're an actor, and you have this thing called acting that you sell. It's all the same.
It absolutely is. I think about it the same way. We are in the entertainment. We are the commodity. And I so often I talk to people about it. Like when I'm doing a Broadway show, it's sometimes 2.5, 3 hours, right? It's exhausting. It's physically exhausting to do the show. But at the end of the day, I am my product. So I have to keep not only the business side of how do I manage this, how do I keep the ideas going forward, but I also have to keep the product in good shape.
Yes.
Because if my product sucks, my physical body, if I'm tired, then it's not going to be – I have to have a valuable product to have somebody want it, right?
Yeah, and until they're posting you on every bus, every billboard, and they're plastering you on TV, until a network gets behind you and starts throwing millions. Look, it's your job to keep getting people's attention. So even though you come off stage after 3 hours, I mean, the other 21 hours of the day is going to be you taking care of your craft, you taking care of your body, taking care of your energy, and the rest of the time, because you can't do that for 18 hours or 21 hours, the rest of the time's got to be you promoting you somehow. And this is where it gets really sticky for the actor. They don't want to do this. They're like, oh, I don't want to sell out. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to sell out? Dude, you ain't working. That's a sellout.
Exactly. And I want to talk to you about that. Listen, we're going to take our first break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about that because you talk about in 10X Rule, you started doing all the Twitter stuff, you started doing the YouTube stuff, and guess what? Based on what you were doing, I started doing some of the same stuff. And we'll talk about that when we come right back. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back with more of the amazing Grant Cardone. This is James Barbour, the Star Power Hour. Come right back. You are not going to want to miss this. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Star Power Hour with James Barbour on VoiceAmerica.com, brought to you by ForTalent.com, your arts and entertainment social network. And we have got Grant Cardone on the show. This is like, I got to tell you guys, I mean, I'm so jazzed when I found out that Grant was going to do this. I was like, I'm so hyped. I was like, you guys, he's going to do the show. Grant's doing the show. All right, so when we left off the first segment, we were talking about promotion. Right? And this is something that I talk about all the time. I'm all over Twitter. I mean, I don't have the bazillion followers that Grant does yet, but I'm working for it. You know, I've got the radio show, and I started putting up these videos because as I watched Grant, you can go, GrantCardone.com, Cardone Zone, go to YouTube, follow him on Twitter. It's Grant Cardone on Twitter, Cardone, and you will see what I'm talking about. And so what I did, Grant, I don't know if you know this because we just started it, but the show that I'm doing is called Donnybrook, right? And it takes place in Ireland. But nobody knows what the heck a Donnybrook is. I mean, some people do. And so people are calling it as based on the John Wayne movie, The Quiet Man from the 60s. It takes place in the 50s, but it was made in the 60s. And so I did this parody. A Donnybrook is actually a fight. It's like a bar brawl, right? It's a Donnybrook. And often people in hockey, there's another Donnybrook. So what I did was I did this parody video where I went around to the cast members in character and I asked them what a Donnybrook was. And none of them, they don't know what it is. They pretend to know what it is. And it's like Waiting for Guffman. It's just, they're freaking hilarious, right? And I thought, that's a funny niche. So I started making these YouTube videos and we're putting them up. And once you know it, somebody, put on the Facebook feed. Now, these are prominent actors who obviously know what they're doing. It's a comedy. Somebody wrote in, these are obviously very misinformed actors or they're very dumb. And I was like, yes, because it hit exactly what we wanted to hit. It's that Christopher Guest, Waiting for Guffman. One guy says Donnybrook. It's Donnie Brook is a guy from Cork, Germany. And, so what I basically am saying is that I took your lead and I started promoting. I started outflowing information. And so often actors, as you said, they say, I don't want to get saturated. I don't want to sell out. I don't want to look like I'm doing blah, blah, blah. And my response is, nobody knows who you are anyway right now.
Dude, it's so crazy because I had somebody tell me, a major firm in L.A. that I was looking to represent me, and they're like, you don't want to get overexposed. And I'm like, what? And they're like, you got a lot of video on YouTube and you're all over Twitter. And I'm like, what did you just say? You don't want to be overexposed. I'm like, where? Who tells you this kind of bull? I'm like, this is ridiculous. And she's like, no, you don't want to get overexposed. I'm like, do you think Coca-Cola has ever had that conversation? Can you imagine? They're sitting up at corporate at Coca-Cola saying, okay, guys, we're Coca-Cola. We're not going to pitch our products anymore. We're not going to sell anymore. We're not going to be on every shelf in every grocery store everywhere in the world and look for other planets to take over because we are overexposed. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Look at Starbucks. An actor needs to think like Howard Schultz at Starbucks. Be on every street corner. Be where you don't just get somebody's attention, but because they see you so often and hear from you so often. This is a word I use in the 10X rule called omnipresent. Be everywhere all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you'll be assigned power. See, it's not enough to get somebody to know you. You have to get them to keep thinking about you all the time so that when they do go to pull the trigger, when they go to fill that actor slot, or when they think about auditions, they think about, oh, what's that chick's name? Oh, yeah, that's Elena Cardone. Let's put her on the list.
Right. Now, let me ask you this, because this is another question. I shouldn't say another objection sometimes that I get when I hear this. And it's not from, look, you and I have some acquaintances who are very successful in the arts and entertainment world. And, and I have some acquaintances who are on, I'm successful, but I'm not a superstar. Right. And then I have people who are just starting out. And usually it's people who are either on my level or the people that are just starting out, and they're saying, well, if I'm on every corner, I want to make sure my message of what I do is right. And basically what I get the feeling is like they're saying, well, I don't want to be, the overexposed thing is we covered that. But, they want to make sure that they're seen for what they are. In other words, if they're a dramatic actor, they want to have that.
Yeah, what I hear in that is this quest for perfectionism.
Okay.
Look, anytime I'm consulting somebody and they start using this perfectionist, I understand it. It's a great idealist concept. Perfectionism typically is an excuse for no production.
Yeah.
An individual is waiting for something to be perfect. Dude, if you wait until then, nobody will know you exist ever. You're in a competitive economy today where it's not the big that eat the small. It's the fast that eat the slow.
Right.
You got to be everywhere right now, and quality is not your issue. Obscurity is the issue.
Right.
If I don't know you, it does not matter how talented you are. I don't have to look far into Hollywood to see poor talent all over the screen.
Yeah. No, you're right. Something interesting happened here, and I talked to you a little bit about it, but I was supposed to do the show Rebecca, which is a musical that was going on Broadway, and there was debacle after debacle from investor fraud to I told you this guy fabricated some investors, and then there was some stuff with a press representative sending emails apparently to somebody else, or the press representative of the show sending emails out to one of the investors telling that person not to invest in the show that the press rep is representing, believe it or not. And the show went down. And, they're still trying to get it going. The producer's a good guy. He's trying to raise the money because a lot of people's livelihoods were at stake at that, hundreds of people. And then there was another person from that cast who was cast in another Broadway musical. And last week, that musical went down because investors pulled out. And it's a horrible thing. It is a horrible thing to happen. But what oftentimes the banter you hear is, well, the actors union has to change how they're doing this. Those producers have to da-da-da. And this ba-ba-ba-ba, this has to change. And I look at it and I go, okay, what's my responsibility? Look, that's business. Stuff like that's going to happen. It's a volatile industry. Look, it's a volatile economy. At least it looks that way, quote unquote. And so rather than take that and say they've got to do something, well, guess what? We chose this profession. We're doing this profession. Nobody says that you're going to reach out and be given a handheld to raise up. As soon as I found out Rebecca wasn't happening, look, I'm stuck on the East Coast. I live in L.A. I took a lease on a place for 6 months to a year. Well, I had to do something. I'm not going to sit here. I got 2 kids. I gotta make money. I got to keep my family afloat. And I also want to keep my art going. I just don't want to sit in a vacuum. So I hear that a lot too. It sort of parallels that no movement thing. It's like, quest for perfection means not doing anything. And believe me, again, I understand the fact that, oh my God, now I've done 2 shows or I've promised 2 shows that aren't happening. Now what am I going to do? Well, what I want to try to do is encourage people to look at themselves and say, okay, good. All right. That happened. What do I do now? I have to take the action. And I think if we empower ourselves,
never rely on one show again.
Right. There you go. And I think that's what happens oftentimes in this, specifically on Broadway. It's not like television and film where, if I'm auditioning for a TV show and I got 3 or 4 guest spots, if you're lucky enough to do 3 or 4 guest spots, it happens again and again and again. If your television show's running, you're making enough money on a big television show that it can tide you over. The thing with theater is that the money is not amazing. I mean, the off-Broadway shows are paying between $400 to $800 a week, living in New York City. And the Broadway shows pay a lot more. But guess what? The show ends. You're not making any more money. There's no residual in theater, right? And so how to have multiple streams of income going at the same time so that, like for me, I'll do the Broadway or the off-Broadway show that I'm doing now, but I also have my concerts going. I also have the radio show going. I also have the TV side, the VoiceAmerica.tv side that we were talking about, the 4 Talent channel that we're developing content for. So what do you think about that? About having, not just you got multiple balls in the air.
You need to think about, and I use this analogy in the book, the 10X rule, about starting a fire. You don't start it with one log, and once you get 4 or 5 logs in there, then you don't just walk away from it. You got to keep adding wood. Right. Like right now, I've never said this publicly. I'm going to go ahead and say it now, and maybe I'll get in trouble for it. But like right now, I'm in negotiations with a group to pick up my TV show. And another group calls up and says, hey, we're interested in doing a show. And then somebody says, oh, Grant, you can't talk to this other group because you got this other deal going. I'm like, dude, let me make that decision, not you. This is my fire. I'm burning. Okay?
Yeah.
So not only did I get that second group, but a third group and a fourth group all working at the same time, even though contractually it could say that I'm not supposed to talk to anybody else, but freedom of speech, man, I'm going to protect myself under freedom of speech, because I don't know if the first 2 deals are going to come through.
Right.
So you got to keep adding wood. And I see so many people, business people and actors across from business all the way to the arts. Dude, you have one little win, something good happens, and everybody wants to celebrate. And I mean, until it's been on 6 or 7 years, you shouldn't be celebrating yet.
I completely agree with you because guess what? We could celebrate. Look, we had the show that we just did. We opened last night on a Sunday. Again, we're pre-recorded on Monday. We have no idea what the reviews are going to be. I don't read reviews. I don't even care, quite frankly. When I'm producing something, I take the reviews because then I can market them. But I don't care. But the show could close tomorrow.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Now what do I do?
And what all the players in that show should be doing right now is out selling tickets during the day to make sure every freaking seat is sold.
Exactly. All right, listen, we're going to take our second break. We're going to come back in just a second. I want to ask you about that and one other thing that I've got. So listen, folks, Grant Cardone, don't forget, 10X rule. You can buy it. You can buy it on the net. You can download the audiobook, which I encourage that you do. Get them both because I like to have the physical one so I can see the quotes, and I like to hear Grant's voice in my head. So we're going to come right back with more Grant Cardone. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about planning. We're going to talk about building and building fires under your butt to get us going. All right, stay tuned. This is StarPower with James Barbour. We will be right back. All right, welcome back to the Star Power Hour. This is James Barbour. I have got Grant Cardone as my guest. We are in segment 3. I'm telling you, man, these shows fly when I got people like Grant on. I want him on for like 6 hours, but he doesn't have 6 hours in a day. He's going, which is part of what we were talking about. We were talking about keeping the fuel going, just keeping logs on the fire because you never know what's going to happen. We were talking about how, you have a Broadway show. My last Broadway show, $16.5 million, I think it was, closed in 6 weeks, right? That's the nature of the business, It just is. That's how it works. What do you do next?
James, it's and that's bad for the business because then that goes down as a loss.
Yep.
And now it's going to be harder to raise money. Yep. And that's what I'm saying to you, like your show that opened last night. Look, the actors of that show, everybody behind the scenes needs to be out today selling seats. Because if there's no seats and there's no revenue, baby, they ain't no show.
You're exactly right. There's a contract that Actors Equity Association put forth because exactly what you said is happening. because shows are making it's harder to raise money, quote unquote, in the economy. Even though I think it was one of the TV shows, MSNBC or CNBC, did a thing where Hollywood is making like annually it's like $4 billion a year, or made I don't know, not a year, but Broadway made like $5, because it's nationwide, theaters nationwide. But one of the things that happens is that because it's harder and harder to raise money, people are sort of going by the wayside. So what Actors Equity did was they created a contract, and it's a touring contract, where the actors actually make less money. And of course, that's the phrase, oh, we're making less money. Well, wait a minute. If the show does well, the actors participate in the revenue of the show once it reaches a certain point. And I was like, that's brilliant, because it encourages the actors to go out and actively pursue and make the show a success other than just the 2 hours that they're working on stage. Well, guess what? Nobody has the urge to go and do that, maybe a handful. But even if you're not, I think it's a brilliant model. But even if that's not the case, like this off-Broadway show, the more we put towards selling tickets, the more people that come and see that show, even though your salary is not commensurate with the number of tickets sold, it's a set fee, the more people are going to know you, the more success the show is going to have. And when people look at you for another job, you can go, oh, you were part of that show? That show sold out.
Exactly. And that's where I think that there's a disconnect between the artist and the responsibility of the artist. It's like, look, until when I first started my business, there was no manager, agent, accountant, lawyer. There was none of that. I answered the phones. I did the paperwork. I did the bookkeeping. I did the sales. Look, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And if you really believe in yourself as an artist or a businessman or whatever your product is, whatever it is you're out there selling, sorry, I had to say that word.
Yeah.
Because I know artists hate that word for some reason. I don't understand why that is. But if nobody knows you, they're not hiring you. And if they're not thinking about you, they're not going to hire you. And if you're not completely sold that you're the nuts Bama Dama, dude, they're not hiring you.
Yeah. And what goes with that too is and we haven't touched on this, is preparation. Look, I would imagine that sometimes you go by the seat of your pants based on, okay, just like you were saying, I'm going to be in New York in 2 days. You are? Yeah, I'm going to be in New York. Hang on the phone. I need to get to New York in 2 days, right? So that happened. That was sort of seat of the pants thing, but it was based on something that happened in real time. But you're prepared when you go into the meeting. At least, your stuff, right?
Well, let me say this. Let me just say this because, it's interesting. You see that as a seat. Grant's just going to show up. But actually, see, that's really where my skill came in. Prior to this, when they made the phone call, I didn't know they were calling me. That's where I'm at the seat of the pants, right?
Right.
Now, once the call happened, that's when I went into my preparation mode. That's when I know, baby, it's showtime now, bro. The lights are on. Gotcha. See, the artist doesn't see that. I see it as a businessman because it's time for me to get an audience now. Now, the fact that there's this one girl that's not a decision maker on a phone in New York, 3,000 miles from where I'm at, I don't see it like that. I see it like I am on stage now. The lights are on me. And is there one person in the audience? I don't know. Most of the time the lights are so bright you can't see anybody anyway, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, look, you got to play like there's 1,000 people out there, bro. And this presentation you're going to do to this chick on the phone is going to get you the next meeting. And now when you show up in New York, see, I just knew I had to get in front of these people.
Right.
Now, which brings you to another interesting place, which is, well, what if you don't have the money to do that?
Right.
Because I had to get on a plane 2 days later, fly myself. They weren't paying for it. And this is where I start coming up with what I'm telling people in the 10X rule, which is, look, obscurity is your problem, not money. The artist thinks he has a money problem. He doesn't. He has an obscurity problem only. I will spend my last penny to make sure the world knows my name and my face. Because if it knows my name and my face, I will never have a money problem again.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was doing Tale of Two Cities in 2009, it closed prematurely, right? Closed after 6 weeks. And there were like 8 or 9 Broadway shows that closed in one day. And, it was the market had gone down, and I started doing these concerts, and they were very successful, right? And somebody said to me, well, how do I do that? Like, how did you do this? I said, well, what I did was I took, $400 or $500 and I started doing promote. Like, well, I'm not going to spend that money. I'm like, well, how are you going to do the show? Well, but I want someone to produce it. And what, look, at that point, I had no income coming in because the Broadway show was down. But I knew that I had to do certain things. And the money that I spent, and that was a small portion of it, the money that I spent more than exponentially got paid back because I was putting money into promotion. I was putting money into advertisement. I was putting money into sound equipment, because without that stuff, I would have no concert. Without the concert, I couldn't sell tickets. Without tickets, I couldn't bring people to the theater to buy them. Without the theater people buying tickets, I would have no income. So it's an interesting thing because I've run into that myself. So what do you say? Like, someone's waiting tables, right? And they're like, well, I got to do, I got to pay my rent, or I've got to do blah, blah, blah.
But see, you're not paying your rent, dude. Every table you wait on should be about your craft.
There you go.
You should be every table that you wait on, whether they tip you or not, man. You're lucky to have a freaking job, number one. Number two, you're lucky to have an audience. You got an audience. You got 4 or 5 people sitting. They're not going to tip you because they're Australian.
Right.
Okay, they don't believe in tipping. Okay, it's just not their culture. It's got nothing to do with you. You got an audience for an hour and a half. Work your craft in front of that audience. Show them how great you are. Take every moment to be brilliant, because average doesn't pay.
There you go.
Look, we have an epidemic in this country called mediocrity, and you can't look. You got a job. You want to be an actor, and you got a job called waiting tables. Use the waiting tables, not for the money it pays your rent, but for the moments it gives you to really get brilliant at your craft.
Which is the other thing that we need to talk about, or at least, touch on. We talked about it. There's mediocrity out there in terms of, artistry, and there's even people that aren't good, right? Yet they succeed. But the key to longevity for me is sustaining. And, you need to have that ability to hone your craft every day. There's a guy in my show, Ted Koch, and Ted is in his script every day. Now, we're open and running. He has his script out. He's in his script every day, right? Going over scene after scene after scene after scene after scene. Guy's an incredible actor, right? And that kind of diligence, that kind of work, that kind of, looking at detail and how to make it better, how to do this, that to me is also a part of it. Working at your craft. But look, if you're not going to work at your craft, and you're not going to spend any money or any time to promote yourself, and you're going to be sitting there thinking, oh, well, when so-and-so discovers me, or let me ask you this, Grant. All right, so people say, okay, I can't get an audition, or my agent won't. What do you say to an artist then in terms of getting them motivated? How would they look at motivation? What would be their first steps in looking at themselves and saying, okay, I get it. I see the big picture. What do I do first? Because I'm stuck.
You got to get so sold on who you are that you're willing to do insane things. You have to be willing to break every social and every moral agreement of your group. So, I hear actors, oh, you can't do it like that, Grant. You can't just go knock on somebody's door. Why not? I guarantee you there's stories of the Julia Roberts that crashed an audition. Mm-hmm. There's got to be. It can't be that you play by the rules and you win. Not in that industry. There's just too many people trying to get their face on a screen.
Yeah, somebody once told me, look, if you went to your dentist and said, hey, do you want to star in a movie? The dentist would be like, hell yeah. But you go to me and say, do you want to do a root canal? No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, for me, look, you gotta be willing to burst through some of the things you don't want to do to get the things you don't have. And whatever that is, fame or fortune or whatever it is you want, or you just want to work. Look, if you want to work, then you got to get in front of people that are saying no for whatever reason, whether it's the manager, the agent, or the group making the decision. They're saying no based on what? They don't even know you.
Right.
Dude, your job is to get them to know you, period.
Exactly. And that's the key thing too, because there are friends of mine who are like, look, I don't want to be a big star. I just want to work. I want to do good work, and I want to make a living as an actor, which is an awesome.
What a liar. What a liar. Can you imagine waking up in the morning? You have a choice to be a big star or just work. I just want the work. I don't want to be a big star.
You're right.
What a liar.
You called me on it. Yeah, no, you're right, man. But, what do I say to my friends? Look, you're lying to me.
What a liar, dude. What a liar. Quit lying to yourself. Look, there's so many people that will lie to you. Don't get in the line. Dude, don't stand in the line. There's thousands of people that will lie to you. Don't be one of those people lying to yourself. It's ridiculous, man. Get big. People need to think much bigger than they're thinking, because let me tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be things happen to you in your career that you didn't even plan on. That's going to knock you down a notch. I think about Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Dude, that's how you need to play the game. Okay? Well, they're probably worth 400, 500, 600 million. Some of the most recognized, probably the top 10 recognized names in the world. They're out working today. They're doing concerts. They're doing endorsements. They're everywhere. See, that's the example. It's not, oh, I just want to work. I just want, dude, nobody's going to even pay attention to you.
That's true. Look, it's not, I hear that a lot. And I sit there and I'm like, literally what goes in my head is, I don't want that. I'm like, okay, if that's good for you. And it's funny because I get into conversations with people and they're like, no, it's just me. You hit it on the head. Hey, listen. We're going to take our last break. We're going to come back with our final segment, and I want to hit this and wrap it up. Dude, I'm jazzed. Listen, guys, Star Power Hour. We've got Grant Cardone. You're getting some gems, guys. You're getting some gems, and you need to take them and listen to them and apply them to your life. I think I'm doing it with mine. We will be right back after this break with more Grant Cardone and Star Power Hour. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're a liar. You're a liar. It reminds me of that Robert Bridegroom. He says to blathe, which means to lie. I love that line. So we got Grant Cardone, guys. This is James Barbour for our final segment. We only got him for another 9 minutes today. And you know what? He's right. He's absolutely right, because I hear that all the time. And I think when we sit quietly with ourselves, if you had, like you said, if you had the chance to be in a beautiful house, with no worries in terms of your finances, and you're a star and you're creating on that stuff, would that we had those problems. Would that I had the problem that I had to decide, if I wanted to go to France on my vacation.
Yeah, you got security outside. The paparazzi pops you every time you walk outside your house.
Yeah.
There's no privacy anymore. Guys are calling you names to try to get $1 million from you from a liability thing for one of the magazines.
Hello.
It's a new set of problems. It's like the family. I was doing some work for a company today, and some of the staff said, well, I'm comfortable. And I'm like, bro, everything is not about you. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm comfortable in my life. I'm like, but what about the wife? And what about the kids? And what about your parents that are going to need their help, that are going to need your help, because they're going to run out of money because they didn't plan correctly either. Not everything is about just one person.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, the big star puts a lot of people to work. So if you have the potential to be a giant star, but you say, oh, I just want to work, not everything's about you.
You're absolutely right.
If you have the potential to be a giant star, be a giant star, be known by the world, and become a company so that you can put a lot of other people to work.
You're right. When I was in high school, I had this vision that I wanted to affect positive change in the world, and that is carried through because I have a production company, I have my own company, and it's about changing people's lives for the better. And then I had my kids. I got married and I had my kids, and I went, my responsibility level has jumped exponentially. Because it's not just me walking through the world. My wife and I used to talk about it. God, before we had our kids, we were in New York City. We could do whatever. We could stay out late. We can go to. And then I was like, I love it the way it is. I love the fact that my necessity level has gone through the roof because I've got 2 little girls, amazing kids that I got to provide for, plus my in-laws, plus the people that are working with me and are working for me. I love that. I love that. So let me ask. Go ahead.
All the things you haven't planned on yet.
I know. Look,
all the things that are going to go wrong that nobody ever thinks about. It just never makes it to the business plan.
Yeah, you're right. And you literally wake up one day and boom, oh, that's happening. Okay, how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
You never know. I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. I got no idea. I can have ideas, but look, I talk to my wife about it like this. It's like if I'm driving cross country and I pick one road to go down and I got the map and I'm driving Route 40 and the next thing you know, there's a big roadblock over Route 40 because something happened. I got to change my plan, but I don't know what's going to happen until I get there. So I got to have that going. So let me ask you this. So we were talking about the how-tos. Again, I encourage you guys to get the 10X rule. It really changed how I focused on things. It really changed how I started attacking not only my career, but my personal life, because I realized that my partner, my wife, we're in this together. I want to make her life better. She wants to make my life better. And it started affecting our family, like our exponential family. And it was really an amazing positive thing that I keep continuing on. So if we were going to say one thing, Grant, I know we could talk for hours about this. Having the person focus on being themselves. You were talking about getting excited about their own career. Then what should they do to take that next step?
Well, I think people need to learn. Personally, I just think people need to understand the value of selling. First book I ever wrote was called Sell or Be Sold. And that book was written for artists. It was written because my wife, I could tell she's like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm like, yes, it does. It has everything to do with you. The movie business and Broadway and music, it's built around revenue.
Yeah.
If there's no revenue, it's not going to happen. Poor Van Gogh. I think about Van Gogh, one of the great artists that has ever lived. He sold one painting while he was alive. One painting, man. It resulted in $400 or something. He sold it to a nephew. And they were probably drunk or smoking opium when he sold it. So, but here's a guy that had this unbelievable art and never, other than painting, which I'm sure he enjoyed doing that, he wasn't able to enjoy any of the fruits of his labor, of his art, while he was alive because he resisted this thing called selling. Wow. And selling's not about being a car salesman. It's about getting yourself known in the marketplace. It's about being considered. It's about learning how to get through a door and get somebody to see you that wasn't considering you. It's about how to make yourself different maybe than the rest of the marketplace so that people can buy your art.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely 100% right. And it goes to, exponentially with the shows themselves. If the people don't know the shows are out there, no one's going to buy a ticket, and it's all about that. Listen, I encourage you guys out there, log on to GrantCardone.com, Cardone Zone. Grant's got his own radio show. I log into the radio show when I can. He's on on Twitter at Grant Cardone. By the way, mine is the James Barbour on Twitter. I had to change it because my buddy James Barbour, spelled the same way, has that Twitter feed, and he's the press secretary for the British Embassy in Washington D.C. And we found out we're related, which is kind of cool.
But no fun to follow.
No fun. Yeah, he said, I know. I'm fun to follow. Come on and follow me. So look, sell or be sold, 10X rule. Go grab them, guys.
And don't be a liar.
Yeah, there you go. Don't be a liar. I stopped lying to myself a long time ago, because I'm like, wake up. I really don't care. I care about life and I care about the world, but I need to move forward so that my life is as good as it can be, not just for me. Look, I can live in a shack if I wanted to. I don't want to. I want my kids to have a life. I want my wife to have a life. I want people that work for me to have success. And success is not something, you talk about it, Grant. Success is not something that, I want to achieve success. No, you have to have success. It's a responsibility. Yeah. And, that little piece of information really changed my viewpoint as well. It's, not having to worry about rent, not having to worry about your mortgage, not have to worry about, where you're going to eat. I remember I got to New York one time. I didn't want to rely on my parents. I went down to Macy's and I got 6 sticky buns in the Macy's cellar in New York City, and I lived on one a day. Because, but that's what I wanted to do. I was like, no, I'm going to do this because I want to put my efforts elsewhere. And guess what? It's what I had to do at that time, but I did it, And
I'm going to go have a sticky bun right now, buddy.
Go have a sticky bun on me. So listen, guys, Grant Cardone, thank you so much for being here, my friend. I cannot thank you enough. It's been an amazing and very fast hour here on the Star Power Hour.
Thanks a lot, James.